Hello, everyone. There you go. I think this is working. Hello, Richard.
Streaming is on.
Here we go.
Just
We are
sending
all
this
here.
link to my computer. I'm trying to do it on my mobile.
I have the same. I'm also for my mobile at the moment.
Yeah, it's the only way I can do this at the moment. Who are you? I'm Richard Kemp from Liverpool.
Hello, Richard. I'm Tessie. I will be chairing this panel. And we have also Zach with us already.
I spoke to Zach on the other link before. I can see his elbows. If I turn it the other way. No, that's a bit better, yeah. And I was trying to do the address at 11:45, so I'm sure what's happening. If it doesn't come through on my computer, I just about struggle through with this. But are we now linked to the people who are supposed to be listening to us? You know?
Yes, we are live.
So right. Hello,
whenever
everyone.
you feel ready, we can start.
Yeah, sure.
Fantastic.
Amazing. So also just as a housekeeping rule, if you can, please mute your devices when you're not speaking, just to avoid that I hear other things in the background. That would be lovely. And also for the listeners, it's just more comfortable. You please leave your cameras on. It's wonderful to see your beautiful faces. Thank you for your time. This conversation will be half an hour long. I need to leave at 11:45, sadly. So we will make it short and sweet. So to give a little introduction for our listeners who are live right now, thank you so much all, wherever you are in the world, to tune in to this year's Youth Summit 2020. So we are today happy here to present panel number 1, which is about, the topic is coronavirus and the decade of delivery for the SDGs. What must the future of education look like to help youth be resilient in this new age of uncertainty? I am joined today by 2 wonderful and accomplished human beings. We have on one side Zach Polanski, which is a Green Party London Assembly candidate. Zach Polanski is a Green Party London Assembly candidate, having previously run as a parliamentary candidate for the City of London and Westminster in 2019. He's now fully engaged in the campaign to help London get Signbury as its first ever Green mayor. An activist, artist, and educator, Zach is very passionate about education and human connection, whether from the hyper-local to the truly global. So thank you so much, Zach, for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you. Then we have as well Mr. Richard Kemp, CBE, which is the leader of the Liberal Democrat opposition at the Liverpool City. He also leads on health and social care for the Local Government Association of England and is the chair of World Merit, a charity which helps young people get involved in the UN SDGs in their own community. His global interest led him to become the UK's representative for 10 years on the World Body for Local Government, United Cities, and beyond. So it is such a pleasure to have both of you on the panel here with us today. So thank you so much for your time. So as the topic it says, coronavirus and a decade of delivery for the SDGs. Tell me, Zach, what with your work that you are doing, where do you see the future of education in times of corona and also in times of Brexit? And how does your work contribute to the SDGs in that field?
Thank you, Tessie. The question alone reminds me of what a trio of issues we've got going on, whether it's a climate emergency, whether it's Brexit, whether it's coronavirus. First of all, I want to say thank you so much for chairing this debate, and also thank you very much to EBB for putting together this amazing panel. Oh, I think someone's having some sound problems. I don't know if someone needs to hit mute. there we go. That's better. So to come to the question, I think education has to be one of the most important priorities at the moment for any government, whether it's at the local council level, whether it's at the United Nations level, or anywhere in between. Education is in an emergency. We often talk about the climate emergency, but right now we have an education emergency too. We have an education system that was designed for the Industrial Revolution, where people were sent into schools like they were factories, just to come out the other end and expect to have learned the things that they felt they needed to learn. But the whole world has changed. It had changed already, but it's certainly changed in the past few months. And we start to need to look at what are the skills and resources that people actually need. What have we been placing priority on when actually we could be placing priorities elsewhere? Now, I could talk about this for a long time, but I don't know how much time I have. So just to give a very short answer, I'd say the number one thing we need to do as a priority is to get people back out in nature, to get people in the real world. So rather than just being in a classroom, which in some ways is the worst place to learn something because there's no actual experience there, it's just a very clinical setting. We need people to be experiencing things in the world. We need a resurgence of art. We need a resurgence of music and creativity. We need to make sure that our politics is interlinked with that creativity and that playfulness. And these things aren't siloed into separate things. And then just very quickly to finish up on Brexit. Brexit is disastrous, I believe, for the UK for a lot of reasons, but it looks like it's happening now. So without sounding too kind of complacent about it, we're going to have to make the best of it. And making the best of it, I think, is a reason to relook at our education system, look at how we can be more resilient for the climate emergency, for future pandemics, and start to make sure that we've got a community that is ready to go and that we don't have to have a disaster like this in the future.
I totally agree with you, Zach. Absolutely. And I really like when you said we have an educational emergency as well, because I think, you know, during times of pandemic, the things that are not so apparent straight out, such as health for this pandemic, are often neglected. So I think that our governments definitely need to keep education as a priority. And I do agree with you highly that our educational system has been created for the industrial stage, where people were just there to be taught how to sit, how to be on time, and how to do the same things. So I think we really need to work towards a future that includes all types of skills, which reflects each and every one of us, and not one person fits all model. So totally agree with you. So now over to Richard. Richard, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Wonderful. So Richard,
yeah.
If you would also please, as an opener, tell me a little bit about your opinion and how your work is helping to further education in the UK during times of Corona and also during times of Brexit. What is your opinion on that? And what will be your main key takeaways, please?
Well, I'm in danger of vehemently agreeing with both of you on this issue. On Tuesday, for the first time in my 38 years of being an elected representative in Liverpool, I will be unveiling a statue. And it's on Penny Lane, which is 100 yards to my left. And it's a statue of John Lennon. And there's just one word on the statue, and a very attractive statue, which I hope some of you will come and look at sometime. And that word is imagine. And it invites us to think about his song of that name. And he invites us to imagine there's no countries. And he invites us in the last line of that song to say, and the world will be as one. I think that the coronavirus has exposed just how poor our education system is, certainly in the UK, but also true in many of the other countries I've been to. We have created, right from the age of 5 when children go to school, right to the age of 23, 24 when some of them leave the education system, a boiler room of educational achievement based on one thing and one thing only: how many exams you pass. And schools and universities get bonuses, financial ones, for getting people through the exam system. But that exam system doesn't necessarily produce results that the young people going through the system want. It doesn't produce the right things for employers, and it certainly doesn't produce the right things we need for society. So I think we need to reimagine our education system so it meets the real needs of our communities, our countries, and our planet. That doesn't mean to say that exams aren't important. If they can find my brain and I've got a brain surgeon doing something, I hope that that brain surgeon will have all the right qualifications. But I think that education should be about educating for life and for the community and for skills every bit as much as ensuring that people have relevant bits of knowledge. And that's the sort of thing I campaigned for in Liverpool and indeed nationally through World Merit, which perhaps I can talk a little bit about later.
Thank you so much. I totally agree with you. Also with my charity Professors Without Borders, we definitely emphasize on the importance of skill within the educational system, which goes again with what Zach said before. We're not in an industrial age anymore. We're in a very fast moving, innovative, technological age. And I think within keeping that in mind, I really, really like the metaphor you were explaining with the statue of John Lennon and his words, imagine, because it is exactly that. As I said before in my keynote opening, it is really about, pandemics will come and go. We had pandemics in the past. There's wars, there's social unrest, there's political problems, there's egos, bad leadership. All of these things, we had that since generations and generations. So it is constant that change will happen, and change might not always be good. But I think it is really important, and you both emphasize on that, and I really like it, to make our youth ready to have the tools and be equipped for whatever is thrown at them. So definitely as well agree with you when you said, exams, really, what is it there to do? Just look at the results of the A levels that came out yesterday, right? It's a disaster, right? And then young people are just being graded on a number rather than on so many different other skills that they have, which I think are equally important. So totally agree with you on that. But we need the skill as well. Everything we do, and exams as well, just sitting an exam and the stress and the pressure is already an amazing skill for the students. But I think that is all it really does. So moving on then from here, I would definitely really like to know more about World of Merit. Could you tell us a bit more about the organization, Richard, and how the organization works with youth in the UK and around the world for furthering the SDGs?
Yes, I hope I haven't made you feel ill. I just moved to another group because they're cutting the grass outside the house. So World Merit is a global charity that has existed for the last 6 years, and we help young people in their own communities deliver the UN's Sustainable Development Goals, which coincidentally, as a councillor, I helped negotiate the local elements of that. The fact is that you can pass decisions in the UN General Assembly or regional parliaments like the EU, national parliaments, or even town halls like mine. But the only place they get implemented is street by street, neighbourhood by neighbourhood, and community by community. So what we do is to provide the resources, the background packages for World Merit councils of young people to do things in their own community. And part of my job is to link them up with the mayors of their communities based on my former links. We're now taking another step, which is to work with a company called QS, which is the major company in the world which lists educational rankings for universities. So this is one of the ones everyone vies to win. And what we're trying to do is to work with students in those universities and the universities to try and ensure that the universities are much more involved in the communities in which they're locating. Because we have this saying in this country, there's town and there's gown, and sometimes the two don't mix. So through QS World Merit, we're doing a whole series of exercises now, starting in January. We're just working them up and be publicising them in the autumn to encourage people to get involved inside their communities and their universities to help them with that. And we'll be presenting awards which will enable them to follow up some of their dreams and ideals that they're trying to bring about as undergraduates or postgraduates.
Wow, that's incredible. Thank you so much. I will definitely need to look it up more in detail, because as probably some of the other people listening live right now, it's the first time I heard about your organization, and it sounds just incredible and very, very, very timely. So thank you so much for telling us how the organization works towards education. And I do agree with you. It's all about customization. There is no one size fits all per region. And I think that, again, is also something which we need to kind of dust off from our educational system and customize it to the kids that are actually experiencing it a little bit more. Almost like customized education, as we're having now coming in with pharmaceuticals. We need the same approach for education. So going over then again to Zach. So with the political party that you're in, with the Green Party, tell us a bit, because obviously you were not for Brexit, but you say it's inevitable and it's happening and we need to live with it. So tell us a bit more about how political parties can make a difference for the educational system, and how important it actually is to have political parties such as yours advocate for reform, for policy reforms in the educational system, and how do you do it?
A great question, and this is massively important. Naturally, I really believe the Green Party have been leading the way on this, whether it's in London particularly, or actually globally. Global Green Parties have been making some quite strong statements for a while. Sian Berry, who is the co-leader of the Green Party, she's also our candidate for London, for Mayor of London. What Sian's been doing is a lot of work around youth services. So the Mayor of London and the government have been slashing youth services across London and in many other cities as well. I'm sure Richard had similar experiences in Liverpool. And actually, those youth services are crucial to make sure that people have a network in which they can then access education. It might not actually be formal education as it's known, but I think it's really important that we look at all the different ways that education can present itself in different ways. In terms of what political parties need to do, I think this is where I really believe in the axiom, don't do anything to us without us. So we need to be including young people and educational institutions in these conversations. It's not that universities don't have good ways of doing things. It's not that universities don't know better ways of doing things. They're just not the only people who know how to do things, the way to do things. So we need to make sure that there's a whole broad spectrum of people who are being consulted about the future of education. Now, with the pandemic, it's obvious that I personally have been doing loads of online courses. I've been learning about data science. I've been doing a beginning law course. I've been looking at game theory and maths. I even did an algebra course on Coursera. So these courses are amazing. And I think the future of education is clearly going to be a lot online, but it can't just be that. Because I really believe that one of the big problems, both in politics and education, is a disconnect of authenticity between one human being and another human being. So of course we can connect online, quite the same as being physically in the space with someone. So we're going to be having to look at blended solutions. And if it sounds like I've gone off on a tangent, I haven't, because politics also needs to look at those blended solutions. And I think politics needs to lead the way on that. And actually in the Green Party, we've been quite lucky because we've been doing this blended solution well before the pandemic. In our London Green Party meetings, we've been meeting on Zoom for, I would say, probably the past year, if not the past 2 years. So when the pandemic, we were already quite resilient to these kind of meetings. But I think it's in lots of other areas too. We really need politics, and particularly green politics, to be leading the way, showing people how we can do things better, how we can do it more economically viably, more importantly, how we can do it more sustainably, and how we can still keep that connection between us, because at the end of the day, we're all one community.
I totally agree with you. Absolutely. And thank you so much for saying it. Also, when you said we have a disconnect of authenticity, you were just speaking my mind. With Professor Sabodas, we have adjusted as well to make it available through online courses, as you said, for alumni, and just keep faith and hope up for people that are looking for quality education. But I do agree with you that nothing replaces human chemistry. I'm doing my medical doctorate in integrative medicine online at the moment, and it's just so hard to keep going because it's just you and a screen, isn't it? And I think that is something we never had experienced before, but our children do now. The homeschooling, I don't know about you or anyone listening right now, but it was really hard for me to see my kids with the homeschooling because they didn't like it. It was just not for them. They are more people that need human connection to learn, rather than just looking at a screen and trying to remain focused for 6 hours a day on a computer. It's for kids, it's impossible of an age, let's say between 7 and 14. It's really, really difficult. So question then to you, Richard. Moving on with the pandemic, obviously we have a second wave, which is imminently around the corner. We cannot change that. The numbers are going up again. And some countries have lockdown rules being reinforced again. So how can you tell us something, or the students that are listening, what would you tell them to give them hope in such disruptive times? What are resources that you would recommend which help youth stay on top of the game? And how do youth can get engaged within the SDGs during times of Corona through the education system?
I think the most important thing to remember about the SDGs is they're not just for Africa, or what people call the third world, or the developing world. The SDGs have targets which apply to everywhere in the world. Liverpool, there are women who don't get a fair opportunity. There are people living in poor housing. There are people who don't have the levels of literacy and numeracy that they need to survive in the modern day. So the SDGs are for every single community in the world. So how do you get involved? Well, a lot of people are happily involved in doing things related to the SDGs without having ever heard of the SDGs at all. They go along and help with, in my area, youth groups for the mentally ill. They visit the elderly. They run programs to help young women have professional and managerial skills that they would otherwise miss. They do environmental projects. They do work with young people. They help set up small businesses. Now, if you say to them, which of those SDGs you are delivering, they'd say, what are SDGs? So partly it's the job of World Merit, the UN, national governments, and I hope Education Beyond Borders, to actually make people realise that what they're doing in this Allerton area of Liverpool, there are young people doing it all over the world. And of course, that's what World Merit is all about. But the best advice I can give is just look around your own neighbourhood, look what needs doing, and find people who want to share with you the idea of putting some of those problems right. And then that will do two things. It will help the community you live in, but it will increasingly make you far more attractive to employers. A lot of employers now say, they've got a degree, a 2-1, okay, we get hundreds of those. But what they're looking for are people who've shown authentic leadership over a period of time in their community, be that local or a particular sectoral community. So I would use this opportunity if I was young again, and that's some time ago in my case, just doing things so that when you have to prepare a CV, you can say, this is what I've done. And it was equally as important to many employers now as what level of degree you actually achieve.
Thank you so much. Again, I agree with you on all the points that you just made. It is really beautiful to say with my mentees, for example, what I do as well, because it's true, not everyone knows the SDGs, and people who have heard of it, they don't know that they're actually being more involved in them than they think. So what I always tell my mentees, because they say, well, how do we find an SDG that works for me? And kind of like trying to categorize themselves, so limiting themselves before they even start. Yeah. And I always say to them, you know, if you really must limit yourself in order to get started, because later you will just see that it's too broad to be limited, but they need to learn that lesson. But if you must, I said, just look out of the window and see the world. What do you see? So some see infrastructure, others see human beings, others see the climate, others see buildings, others see cars, and so on. And I said, all of these different visions you see have an SDG addressed to them. I said, and that way you know what speaks to you in order to get the conversation starting. So I totally agree with you and everything you have said. It's just so fascinating. We definitely need to talk more after this. Then, yes, no, I would love to, really. Then Zach, please, can I ask you to answer the same question, please?
Yeah, I think the particular thing, so this isn't advice as such. I try not to give advice because I prefer people are empowered to kind of discover their own advice. But I think the big people I'm worried about are so at the moment you've got young people who might have parents who are suddenly loving this opportunity. They're not enjoying the pandemic, that's very separate, but they're actually loving the opportunity to spend time with their children, whether it's in nature, whether it's exploring, you know, their local surroundings, whether it's watching TED Talks together. And this is actually creating a nicer connection, and that's beautiful. Then you've got children whose parents are at work or maybe key workers, so they're going into school. They're having a disrupted education, but actually it's not necessarily that bad, and there could be some positives to this. What I'm really worried about are those children left behind, where their parents are struggling to pay the rent or just don't know how to manage their children's education or finding it overwhelming. And those kids then are now becoming this lost generation, where when they try and apply for university, or if they go on an apprenticeship, or if they just go straight out into the market kind of workforce, then they're going to have lost this really crucial period of education. So I think advice is a tricky one to talk about at the moment, because in many ways, there's not a lot that young person can do. That's where we do need systemic intervention and political intervention, because it would be a very conservative position to come from and say, well, any young person can do it. They just need to have courage. They need to have hope and curiosity. Of course, courage, hope, and curiosity are things that I massively encourage in any individual, whether they're young or particularly old or anywhere in between. But we still need intervention from institutions, from governments. So really my advice would be for the government, and my advice would be to stop ignoring this crisis, to stop hoping it would go away, to stop kicking into the long grass. You know, big shout out to Wales here, who actually have a Future Generations Act, where with anything that they're putting into place, they're thinking about those future generations that might not even be born yet. I think it's massively incumbent on this government to start thinking about future generations that we can't see yet, and thinking about the consequences of their actions. This includes, without being too political, things like Dominic Cumming going to Barnard Castle and then the Prime Minister saying that he acted responsibly. There is a crisis of leadership along with the crisis of education, and we massively need political parties to start shifting with that. The Green Party have been waving the flag on this for years. I think we've been on the right side of history with it. We've been saying that we need to promote things like home education, but we need to be making sure that all subjects are studied, and it's not just about ticking boxes or exams. I agree with Richard, exams are important, but then I think things like Ofsted aren't particularly helpful when it becomes a box ticking exercise. So we need better ways of measuring children's education and making things more student-led. So my advice to young people would be to get political, to get voting and get campaigning, because this all needs to change.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Really, really insightful. So as we're wrapping up this panel, can I please ask you, Zach, first? Because I want to leave the listeners and the students, obviously, it's mostly students listening in, with something they can take away and take action today. So is there one particular resource, for example, that really worked out for you that other people can access, or a book you have read which really changed your perspective, or anything really you can give them on their path to change society for the better?
So I'd give them two things, really. One that I've got from this conversation is just thinking about what education is. I think we all need to take a huge step back and reinvigorate that love of learning, because actually there's nothing more important, I think, than not knowing something, not understanding something, and spending some time to develop that skill or that knowledge, and then to know and understand it, and then to be able to give it to someone else and to develop it further. So we all need to stand on the shoulders of giants, keep learning, keep educating ourselves, and then get better at things. There's an author called Gregory Bateson, who I'm a huge fan of. He's an anthropologist, an educator, a scientist, and he talks about how we need to learn how to learn. And that's the big thing that I'd give away as a resource, is I think we all need to consider our own learning styles and how we learn to learn, because that's almost more important than the content itself. That's the process. And the second thing, it is cheeky, but it's true. I'd encourage them to join the Green Party. It's only £3 a year, but we have a huge young green movement. And that movement is highly influential in the party. That's made up of students, it's made of young people who are apprentices, it's made up of young people who are still in school. But actually, very quickly, your say can have a huge say across the whole party. It's not just for UK citizens. Anyone's very welcome to join the UK Green Party and then get us moving, because we need a movement.
Thank you so much. Very, very useful. And I really like what you said about learn to learn your way, because again, it's not a one-size-fits-all situation when it comes to education. So thank you so much, Zach. Then over to you, Richard. Can I please ask you to also answer this question and give us some advice, some resources which the students who are listening in can use on their new path, on the path forward?
Well, my first piece of advice is don't wait for old white blokes like me to give you permission to do anything. My favourite phrase is ask for forgiveness when you've tried something. Go out now and find some friends, find something you're concerned about, and do something about it. Doing something is more empowering than tweeting or Facebooking or wittering away on social media. Getting your hands dirty with a local problem and realize that those local problems are replicated around the world. If we all do a little bit in our own communities, with our own capacity, with our own mates, we can change the world. We don't have to wait for Donald Trump or Boris Johnson or Putin. We can change things street by street, neighborhood by neighborhood, community by community. Roll your sleeves up. There's no greater empowerment than doing things in your own community and solving your own community's problems.
Thank you so much. That was fabulous, Richard. So the two of you, really, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for your insights and for your time to contribute to this panel. I certainly have learned a lot. And I have certainly met some true impressive human beings that I would love to stay in touch. So on one thing you said, Richard, was about, it's not about tweeting, but yet let's try it as well for now, because I'm sure some people have some questions to you. So if you would just also quickly share, if you have a Twitter, what the handle is called, so that if people have a question, they can ask you that question over Twitter. That would be really, really wonderful, so people can stay in touch. My Twitter handle is Tessie_DE. So if you have any other questions for me as well, please do get in touch, whoever is listening, and also, of course, Zach and Richard. So Zach, please, can you share if you have a social media you want to share for people who have questions to you, and how can they reach you?
Absolutely. I just want to say as well, I'm going to disagree slightly with Richard. that I think social media is hugely impactful. Although I disagree at all, we should also be involved in the community. But it's at Zach Polanski, ZACKPOLANSKI. I love having conversations about social media. So bring your information to me.
Thank you so much, Zach. And Richard, would you be able to share as well some of the contact information, whatever you want to share, for people to get in touch with you if they have any questions?
My Twitter account, which is CLLRKEFT, all as one word. So council account, all as one word.
Perfect. Well, that sounds amazing. I surely will start following you. And so I want to thank you both really dearly for your time. And yeah, keep doing what you're doing. It's so important. You're doing crucial work for the educational systems and in where you're operating in your communities, and for the UK and for Europe as a whole. So thank you so much. And yeah, I wish you a good rest of the conference. I sadly need to go because I have a meeting now, but it was really my greatest pleasure. Thank you again to Educating Beyond Borders for having us, for hosting us today. And I wish you all a really, really good rest of the day at the Youth Summit 2020.
And thank you, Tessie. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank you, Richard.
Yeah.
Hi, Carlos. Hello.
Hey, hello.
Yeah, how you doing?
Hello, greetings.
Yeah, I can see your face.
Now you can.
Yeah, I can now.
Hi. Hello, pleasure to meet you.
Yeah, how you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Pretty good. I'm trying to figure out everything that's going on here
Yeah,
and if this is the right place to be. I
yeah,
think this is right.
it, it, yeah. This is the right place to be. What happened is that we're actually starting by 12, but we just need to get ready before the actual time. Okay. So good to hear that you are now there.
Yeah, right.
So where are you from?
Sorry?
I say where am I speaking with you from? Just say
I can't understand you, sorry. There's a bit of background noise on my side. Sorry.
can you hear me now? Can you hear me now?
Yes, better. Yeah.
All right. I hope you've gotten the mail and you know why we're here and what we're discussing today.
Yes, I had a chat yesterday with Rox about app and what we're going to discuss today.
Yeah.
This is about the inspired accountability, right? So I also told Rox
Exactly.
that I'm from World Merit, and we look at accountability in a different way, where it's more from the individual perspective and the responsibility and the growing of leadership skills and resilience. So that's a bit of the topic that I want to touch upon in this session.
All right.
Does that
That's a great one.
okay?
That's a great one. Where do you say where do you say you're talking from? From Europe, right?
Where I am from?
Yeah. Present.
I'm originally from the Netherlands, but we are based in Liverpool. But currently, I'm traveling in Spain.
The Netherlands?
I'm from the Netherlands, yes.
Oh, currently in Spain. Yeah. All right. That's great. Nice meeting you. I'm also from Nigeria. Currently in Nigeria, though.
Okay, cool. Where in Nigeria?
Yeah. I'm Lagos. Lagos.
Lagos. Cool. Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah. Where is Spain?
We're in Spain,
Okay.
2 hours south from Barcelona. I'm actually in the mountains in a small village.
Oh,
So
that's
I'm
great.
actually in a cafe just to find Wi-Fi, and it was a bit of a pity of a timing. I told Rux yesterday, but the cafe will close in 30 minutes. So
In 30 minutes.
so I'm only able to participate in the first half of it. I think that's just a panel and then not a Q&A, I'm afraid.
All right. Quick one then. Let's quickly do what we are here. Okay.
Yeah.
Just a quick one. I'm starting now. Since we
I can't hear you yet. Sorry.
can you hear me?
Yes, now I
Can
can.
you hear me? All
Yes.
right, great one. I said what you know we are here because of the pandemic, the coronavirus. No one saw it coming. However, it has affected a lot of things, especially our educational system. Okay. Here in Nigeria, our educational system is on hold. Students are no longer going to school. And everyone is on hold. Okay, what's up? But they are not currently giving visa for students. Is that are affecting international students. They are even bringing out policy that are affecting people who are planning to come there. You get, and that is why we are here. The coronavirus and the policies. Do students even know about these policies? How are they preparing to face these policies? How do they mitigate this policy and come out being dressed? Okay. So what we want to consider today is the effect of coronavirus on higher education. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Are you with me?
Yeah, I think my connection is breaking. So sometimes I didn't something it fell down, it broke away. But I think I got.
Are you with me now?
Am I what?
Are you with me? Are you hearing me now?
Yes, now I can. Yes.
All right, great one. Okay, so quick one. Can we just deliberate on what are the effect of the coronavirus before we look at bringing out the solutions and also where accountability can come in? How do you think coronavirus have affected higher education in your own country then? For my country, let me start with my country, Nigeria. For instance, we do not use the virtual education. I get it. So we are not used to the virtual learning in Nigeria here. So the coronavirus or the pandemic has really affected us, and as a result, many of our higher education are on hold. Like educational system is on hold because of that, because they try to adopt they try to adopt the virtual learning, but it's not working because it's a system where they are not used to. Okay, adopting a system that you've not seen before or you've not used before become very difficult to work with. I get to. So as a result, as a result of that, the educational system here is on hold. Also, on students who are shooting out, they are making a move to go and study abroad or do their masters or further education abroad, is also on hold. Policies are coming in every time. Government policies is affecting even those who are there. Okay, for instance, in US and UK, for instance, there are some policies that are coming in, most especially in US, that is affecting the mental faculty of even international students out there. And it's a major concern for us here. That what's the government doing? Like the government should be taking these people into consideration. These are people who leave their country just to come to your own country to further their education, because I see it as an investment. Okay, so what are they doing at their point? They even consider these people in their policies. Okay, housing is also a major problem there, because we now find out that most of the students find it difficult to get quality housing for themselves. I get to it, and we take most of them.
Michael, I cannot hear you.
Hello.
Yes, now I can hear you again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know if the connection broke or there was something in front of the mic.
Did you hear what I said? I've been saying since.
Most of it of what's happening in Lagos and the policies.
All right. So the policy, government policy have really affected our educational system here. However, we are interested in the international students out there. What is international government doing? What is my own government doing so as to help these students, because they are indeed an asset. Are you getting it? And also, even those who have finished schooling, who have finished their study there, how were they able to get a good job that will sound them right? Are you getting it? So that's why we are here to discuss. So I would like to know, how does coronavirus affect your own country there in terms of higher education, and also people who have gone abroad, who have gone for international studies? How does it affect them? Do you see the government policy there something they can leverage on, or something disadvantage to them? So that I would love to hear from you.
Yes, those are very important questions. If I look at World Merit, we don't necessarily aim our action, our work at policy level. We actually work bottom up. So we really look at the roots of the problem of the framework of the 17 Sustainable Development Goals in the communities. And if we look at currently at the current situation, the pandemic, the COVID, we have our community members, even in Lagos, in Nigeria, or in South Africa, in Malaysia, very much impacted by this pandemic, with the lack of educational offering all of a sudden, and having to juggle up multiple balls at the same time. But the opportunity actually that it brings to them is a way of seeing what's happening in their communities and the need to help them out, whether it's loneliness, or whether it's not being able to do your own groceries, or whether it's a big struggle in well-being, mental health. And these are some of the topics that our community members, our change makers, are picking up, and they're going out there, combining different projects from all over the world to feel this sense of belonging and to share knowledge of what's going on. And by doing so, they are all of a sudden, they're learning very different skills than what you normally learn in the educational system. This is more a service learning, a way of learning to problem solving, and these are skills that we need in every aspect of life. But all of a sudden, when seeing these problems in real life, real humans, which is a real life case, which I think our educational system in most of the times can be improved, of having more real life experience. And I think this pandemic, even though we're in lockdown, even though we are entangled in some way, this gives us the opportunity to go out there, whether it's digitally, texting a friend on your well-being, reaching out for help, or ringing the bell of your neighbor to do the groceries, and actually that gives you this sense of purpose, and you are giving another person a sense of gratitude for reaching out, for helping that person, and those two have a positive effect on your own well-being. Because if you're contributing to someone else's smile, that's contagious. It's to yourself and it's to the people around you. But obviously, before you can do that, you need to take good care of yourself. You cannot radiate positivity and joy and well-being if your own well-being isn't good. So that is something very challenging at this moment in time, where we're confined, where we're in lockdown, where we can't go out for social activities. So it's very important for every one of you to take good care of that, and it's a responsibility we all have. And if you need help, don't be afraid to reach out, even to your friends, or there are tools out there online, anonymous tools that give professional advice and help. In the UK, for example, it's called Kooth Support, KOOTH.com. It's anonymous, it's confidential, an easy way to express the struggles that you're experiencing right now, and an easy way to try to get better. But acknowledgement is the first thing to making the steps on your own well-being, and then the next thing is to radiate that to your others, and then it will be a cycle that just goes up and up and up, and your own well-being becomes better and better. And even though this COVID situation is horrible for most of us, financially, socially, educationally, but there is another gap of opportunities that is occurring, and I think we all have the responsibility to have a look at that. Does that answer your question somehow? I think you're still on mute. I cannot hear you. I can hear you somehow now.
Yeah, all right. thanks for explicitly saying one or two things that can be beneficial to students in international students from EU and also every other area. The reality is for my country, I think information is one of the key things that people or youth do not have access to. Okay, so you should be first accountable to the information that you have around you. Do you get what I'm trying to say?
Michael,
The
can you
information
speak? Can you speak closer to the microphone? It's difficult to understand you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, much
Can you
better.
hear me? Hello.
Yes, if you speak closer to the microphone, it's better to understand you.
Yeah, can you hear now? Is it
Yes,
clear?
much better.
Audible now. Okay. So what I'm saying is that for our country here in Nigeria, I think information is a problem. You get people, especially international students, do not have access to the right information, and this is why most of them are hereby stranded when they go outside for their study. Do you get? So I think one of the first accountability measure you should take is being accountable to the informations that you see around you or that you find or that you want to get access to. Do you get? Not just like you said there are bodies that are available to assist international students, and of course educating beyond borders is one of them. Okay, where they can adequately help international students on areas that needed urgent attention. So to me, I feel information, having access to the informations available is one of the measures that youth need to take with urgency. Okay, they should be able to have access to informations that's going to help them when they are or during their stay um, um, in foreign countries during their course of study. That aside, we know the pandemic is here, and hopefully is not going to last forever. Obviously, it's not going to last forever. However, what do you think it has affected? Now, to me, from the research that I've gotten, it has affected mode of applying for this admission processes have changed. Before the pandemic, most of the application do require some documents. One of which is GRE or TOEFL A-level exam. But because of the pandemic, it has that some schools have waived these things, and I see that as a plausible one. But we find out that even most students do not have access to this information. They don't know. I get it, and this is the best thing they can do. They can use to apply. However, we know that the policies are there. Some of the policies might not be encouraging as it may seem to be. Okay, for me, I don't know about your country there. For me, my greatest advice that I would give for youth is that they should start doing their preparation for 2021. If you are planning to come for your study there in UK or United States of America, you should be planning for 2021. The reality is the policies that have been set out currently might find it difficult for students who are coming, because now borders are closed, visas are restricted because of the pandemic. We can't run away from this fact. It's an obvious fact, but that shouldn't stop your interest. I get me, or what you've been hearing. Oh, international students are stranded. Oh, we don't have access to quality housing.
I can't. You're not audible anymore, Mike.
Can you hear me now?
Now it's better. Yes.
Okay. So you should be routing. You should be doing all your preparation for the following year. Okay. So my advice for youth out there is that they should be making all their preparation for 2021, because if you're going to start for fall 2020, for my own country here, where the pandemic has bring restriction on movement where you can no longer travel, and even US visa is not even available. Okay, so that shouldn't weigh you down. That shouldn't affect your interest. Okay, if you're not if it's not possible this year, make your preparation for next year, 2021, because I am very sure that the pandemic is not forever. Okay, it's going to come to an end soon. So our attention should be the information that
Michael, you're not audible. I cannot hear you. Maybe it's my connection.
Can you hear me?
Yes, slightly better.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear
me now.
Yes. Yeah.
So I said what I was trying to say is that the information young ones have access to, they should know how to filter it. Are you getting me? They should know how to filter it in the sense that the ones that are that concern the policies and every other area, they should know what to make use of it. Do you get what I'm trying to say? Just like you said that there are international bodies. Are you there with me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay, just like you said that there are international bodies that assist international students who are going through a lot of problems. Who do not have access to housing, who do not have access to documentation, who don't have access to legal and other area. These bodies are there to assist them, and of which education beyond border is there to assist them also. Okay, so I believe that one key accountability package that you should have as a young one, despite this pandemic or this corona virus, COVID-19 period, is having access to information. Not only having access to it, also making use of the necessary informations that you have. Okay, so are we good to go now? Hello.
Yes, no, I think
Hello,
Michael, yes, I can. I think you have good points, and indeed what you say about the pandemic, it's unexpected. It has surprised the entire world, and this is a situation that we have no idea yet how long it's going to take, if it's going to be months or whether it's going to be years. So I think this is a big test. It's like a crisis, and the crisis is what shapes human. It's what shapes you. It's what shapes me. How are we going to react to this? And obviously, this has not just surprised you. This has surprised every single organization, government, institution in the world who were not prepared for this. So no one per se, everyone should be having the mindset that no one is going to help you because everyone is in a crisis mode. So personally, what I can advise every single one of you is take this time. If you're able to take this time, try to take a step back, not to force anything into the education that was on your plan. This is going to be my career. This is the education that I need to take in order to get there, and then I'm going to take that path. Because this moment in time has proven and shown that we cannot plan life. We don't know what's going to happen. But this is something that has shaken us all up, and we need to show flexibility and resilience. So instead of being able to go next month to the study and the international location, university that you wanted to go, indeed, as Michael said, try to count on that. It's not going to happen this year. Try maybe, hopefully next year. Let's hope, fingers crossed, that the vaccine and other solutions will be there in time for that. We are able to have a proper university or a proper study at the university on campus. But for now, what I would advise, think of skills, think of other ways that you want to personally develop yourself, that you don't need to travel to the university, to another country, or try to think what is currently possible within the borders of the lockdown? Do you have access to internet? Do you, for example, who do you know? What kind of skills do they have? Talk to them. But if you have access to internet, if you're watching this now, for example, go to websites like Coursera. They have free courses on, for example, on your well-being, project management, communication skills, marketing, finance, anything that you think is relevant for yourself, whether you want to grow yourself personally, whether you want to grow yourself professionally. Don't let this entire situation limit you, because this is one of many situations that's going to occur in your life, and it's a setback, and you will be kicked down many different times. But it's not about how many times are you kicked down, how many times you fall from the stairs. It's about how many times do you get up and how do you get up. And the way that we with World Merit, we have an incredible community around the world, in Nigeria, in Indonesia, in Bangladesh, spread out to the entire world. And these people, the most developing countries, we see that the communities are most active and there's the biggest sense of belonging. And how come? The problems that most people face in developing countries are tougher. I don't want to compare them, but they are at a higher urgency than people, for example, face in developing countries. And this sense of urgency has brought out the best of people. You see it now, what happens in Beirut. Local people, they're all going on the streets to first clean the streets. And no one has asked them to do that. But while doing that, it creates this bond. It creates a sense of oneness, a community, while they're all having the same purpose. And while doing that, they feel better, because that's the way it works. It's how our hormones work. So that's what I would invite you to do. One, go online, try for free courses, and it's also a possibility for yourself to explore. It can even be creative. It doesn't have to be academic, professional, but just go out there. There is a lot of offering that you can develop yourself. And secondly, I would really invite you to join a community, whether it's World Merit or any other community that aims at the needs, the problems that your local, regional, national, or global community needs, whether it's gender inequality, whether it's the climate change, whether it's mental or physical well-being. Try to see where you can help out and be of service. And there is this great concept that is called service learning. And service learning is where, by giving service to others, to your community, to your neighbor, or to family, you are developing leadership skills. You are becoming proactive. And these are from my personal humble opinion, are the most crucial skills that you can develop. Leadership skills, resilience, and proactiveness, because that is what your community needs right now. And it's not something that your career needs in 10 years. So try to be flexible. And indeed, what Michael says, one day we will get out of this pandemic. I'm quite sure. I have a lot of trust in our science, and hopefully it will be rather sooner than later. But for now, it requires all of us to be flexible and adaptable. And I know in many situations that you are currently in, that can be very, very challenging, financially, socially. And don't be too hard on yourself on forcing to get out of that. There is no easy solution overnight, but accept that this is a tough situation for yourself and for everyone in this situation. As I said, your well-being, your mental health is being tested very much during this time. Allow that, recognize that, acknowledge it, and try, if you feel that you need help, don't feel bad to reach out to their friends, to family. But if you rather look for an expert or anonymous support, as I mentioned, there are some organizations out there to help you, like Koot, KOOTH.com, Koot Support. It's anonymous. because what I said is, and I perhaps this is a nice one to link it back to. Once I saw a young student asking the Dalai Lama at a conference what he thought brought most unhappiness to people and what people should do to become happier. And I think it's the core of life, right? We all want to become happier in one way or the other. We try to accomplish it, but we're all trying to have a peace of mind and being happy. And Dalai Lama responded, we need to try to shift our mind from a full focus on ourselves to being more selfless and opening and looking at others. How can we help others? Because that will eventually give us a deep sense of purpose and happiness. And it will forget as well. It has another perspective because it also somehow lets us forget about the struggles that we have for a moment of time. It's kind of a distraction. So again, I don't want to say there is one easy solution that will just get you out of this challenging situation, but little by little, day by day, take the challenges and try to absorb and translate them into positive action for yourself and for the people and your environment around you.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Mr. Carlos. Thanks for this wonderful comment and this wonderful contribution. However, we'll have to ask one or two questions from you. What you have for students out there, youth out there. We know the pandemic is here, and sooner or later it's going to leave. What I just want to ask, skills is very, very important in our world today. Despite what you study, you still need some soft skills to be able to strive in the world. Okay, so what skills do you think will be in demand after this pandemic, so that students out there, youth out there, would focus and channel their energy towards those skills in these trying times? So I would like to know, what skills do you think would be very, very important after the pandemic, or even during this pandemic, that you think youth should focus on? Thank you.
Yeah, good question. So what kind of skills do you need after this pandemic? And I guess it's to improve your job security, to have right, Michael? I think that has a couple of different perspectives. And I can talk about the academic skills, your professional skills. And I think it's very important now to look at the evolution or the progress in the world. If we look at, for me personally, this entire situation has showed you and me what is really important in this world. If we look at healthcare, I think most countries in the world weren't prepared for something like this. And I don't think we can have asked for our healthcare systems to be prepared for this massive of a pandemic. But the healthcare shows us the very basic elements of life. So I think this is something that will be growing after this pandemic, that there will be more recognition and more gratitude towards our healthcare system. So I think there will be more jobs in that sector. I truly hope that. But that is just, for me, it's an example that shows that we as humanity need to take a step back. What is really important in life, and how is it going to evolve? On the other hand, I would like to talk about two more perspectives. One is your personal development, and the third one is an industry that I think has been growing rapidly in the world with the after the industrial revolution. I think IT-related skills are crucial, and sorry, apologies. Where was I? I think, yeah, IT related, so coding, but also graphical design, how building up your knowledge on how to build a website, or how what's going on in the technical world. I think that there is still a high demand to developers to project managers in the technological field, graphical designs, marketing. I think those kind of skills really, I think that is the answer that you were looking for, Michael. Those kind of skills, I think, are and will be in high demand from a different range. So whether you are building an app, building a website, or you are a designer, or you have a lot of experience and knowledge in databases, very, very useful in the coming time. But what I think is most crucial, and that is the core foundation of every single person, if you're not an authentic person, you really need to get to know yourself. Who are you? What are your values in life? What do you want to accomplish? And if you're going to study, I want to become a master of the German language, for example, but you have no idea what your core values are, what you want to accomplish in life, it's not going to help you in a successful career. And the most important elements in life are staying true to yourself. If your parents or your family demand you to become a lawyer or a doctor, and you really feel you want to be a painter, you want to become the next Picasso or the Van Gogh, then you're never going to be a successful doctor or lawyer. So you need to also go through a process of getting to know yourself, unpeel the onion. And this is not an easy process, but really ask yourself, what is really important to me in life? As a person, how do I value people? How do I value the world around me? So I think that is a core foundation of authenticity, and authenticity is key in leadership. If you want to become a leader in any organization, if you want to become the president of Nigeria, of the United States of America, or you want to become a very successful CEO, you are not going to become a successful CEO without really getting to know yourself, being authentic, and staying true to yourself. But also other leadership skills, as in communication, verbally, listening. I think listening is a skill that most of us under evaluate, because some say we have 2 ears and 1 mouth. That means we need to listen twice as much as we talk. And an incredible book that I read and I still love, it's a very corporate book, but it's the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So if you have the chance, I would advise you to read it. But the most important for me, the lesson from that book was, you need to listen in order to understand you. What we normally do, and I still do this, when I listen to people, I'm already thinking, how am I going to reply to this? What kind of information should I have in order to best reply to this, so that people will respect me, people think I'm smart? But actually, way more valuable and critical right now is to actually listen to that person, ask follow-up questions, and really, really try to understand what that person is saying, because most of the times we are just mirroring our own experience. So for example, I'm coming to the doctor for my eyes, and I say, hey doctor, I have some difficulties with my eyes. I cannot see from close. From far away, I can see really well. And the first thing that the doctor says, wait a second, I have the exact same problem. Here you have my glasses, try my glasses on. This should work, right? Now, next client. So what this doctor does is he just hears 2 things. I cannot see well from close by, but I can see very good from far away. He has similar complaints, but obviously my eyes are different than his eyes. So the glasses that I need in order to solve this problem will be different than the glasses that he needs. So if he would have asked me 5 or 10 follow-up questions and did some more tests and really tried to understand what my personal problem was, he would be able to really help me in finding the solution. But by this way, he was just making the problem worse. So that is just an example of why we need to listen more than we need to talk. So I think those kind of skills are most crucial in life in general. So I think that's a very holistic view of what kind of skills you need in order to come out best out of this pandemic, right? It's personal, it's academic, it's professional, very wide.
All right, Mr. Carlos, thanks for those wonderful tips. I really appreciate that. I think you out there are hearing this, and they will take this into consideration. But before we ask you last course, you all know that accountability is self-inclined, and it means different things to different people. So I would just like you to brief us of what accountability means, and how youth out there, youth who are in higher institutions, need to take conscious use of what accountability means and how they can scale through with this. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So this is the good final question. For me, accountability is related to responsibility. And the way I see, and again, this comes from the same book that I just mentioned, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Responsibility. If you cut down the word, you have response and you have ability. We all have the ability to choose the response to everything that happens in life, whether it's a red light at the traffic light, whether it's a pandemic that takes away our physical classes or our education. We all have the ability to respond. And I feel that we have the accountability and the responsibility to choose how are we going to absorb and how are we going to be flexible with the situation, with the uncertainty of what's going to happen in the coming months or years. You need to trust your gut feeling, but you also need to have the responsibility to take action yourself. Try to find as much information online that's out there. Do everything you can to know what's the current situation. You cannot demand anyone at this stage to give security about the coming months or the coming years. So that is where you need to be accountable of your own process in the coming weeks and months.
All right, Mr. Carlos, thanks for those wonderful tips. Right now, right here, we would like to
I can't hear you, Michael.
thanks for this wonderful.
Michael, cannot hear you.
Are you there?
Michael?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you a little bit.
All right, I said thanks for those wonderful tips. We really appreciate that, and I'm very sure it's going to go a long way in the mind of our youth out there, especially our higher institution students. Thanks. We really appreciate your time and your effort.
Yeah, thank you for hosting this, and thank you to Educating Beyond Borders for setting up this this summit and the incredible work that you do. I'm looking forward to working together in the future to break down these borders.
Thanks so much.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, bye.
Have a great day.
Have a nice day.
Okay, thank you. Bye bye.